Game day is returned for the Arizona Coyotes. They have the last game of their long East Coast road trip. They are now over in Pennsylvania, where they are playing the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're going to talk about that game, break it down, see what we think is going to happen on today's episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robin Leonio. That is Carl Pavlik. On this Tuesday, it is January 25th. Arizona Coyotes face the Pittsburgh Penguins today. Final game of the road trip. Excited that part is finally done. Before we get any further, I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. But here we go, Carl, on this game for this game. Long road trip, finally done. That probably feels nice.
Yeah, especially like the Coyotes have played a lot at home this month. You get a 4-game road trip. You know, not necessarily the longest, but still significant amount of time away from your families. I think it'll be nice for it to be over. It'll be even nicer if the Coyotes are able to get a win and finish at 500.
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing because I think a lot of, we were going into the road trip and be like, oh no, they're gonna freaking not do well this road trip at all, and then they start off. I mean, obviously they lost back to back against the New York teams.
Yeah,
but a solid win over New Jersey, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
That was quite the shocker. I had some fun teasing Trey on social media about it.
Yeah, I mean Trey definitely. I appreciate the optimism. Looking at like kind of how that game went in the standings, I think he was maybe a little bit too optimistic. But then again, like I thought the Islanders game would be pretty much the same because those teams, New Jersey and New York, for the Islanders, they're relatively equal footing. But no, the Islanders were able to just come out and destroy the Coyotes and just outwork them from start to finish. And then the Rangers had the painful comeback, scoring 6 unanswered goals in the second half. So started off on like a surprising high, and then I think it just kind of dropped pretty low in terms of morale for the team.
Yeah, and that's how. I mean, that's the story of the Coyotes, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get fooled by something, but then it's like, oh no, that's right. This is the Coyotes team we're used to.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hockey, so what's going to always happen is there's going to be some games that your team probably shouldn't win, that they do. There's going to be some games that they probably should win, that they lose. The Coyotes don't have a lot of games where they should win. Like, looking at their competition, they're pretty much always outmatched. But it did feel like the Islanders game was like one of those few where I'm like, if not win, they should be able to compete. And they just weren't.
No, they're not. And it goes back to the whole, second period collapses, right?
Yeah.
This is, one of the things we've been talking about all season long. And just the Coyotes have not, I think so far, have not strung together a full 60-minute game. And obviously it's a big ask for a lot of teams to put together a 60-minute game. But when you have a whole period in which you just completely disappear, that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I mean hockey's a 60-minute game. If you take a third of it off, it's not going to be a good time for you. I should also point out that special teams were also a major contributing factor to the loss against the Rangers, which again has been a problem for the Coyotes. They gave up a shorthanded goal, and that really started the Rangers' comeback. Chris Kreider getting that, and then Antari Panarin was able to get the power play goal that gave them the lead. So, like, special teams are important. The Coyotes are not a team that's overly skilled. So that is going to make that area of their game like very weak. And unfortunately, they are up against a team that, you know, not necessarily the best power play, but the best penalty kill in the NHL tonight in the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is unfortunate that the Coyotes are going to do that. Thankfully, the Penguins did give up a power play goal against the Jets in their last game, but still, it's going to be another tough matchup. And I don't have much faith that the Coyotes are going to do well against the second team in the Metro Division when they were handily beaten by the first team.
Exactly. Let me also give you guys a little bit of backhanded optimism in a way.
Cautious optimism, maybe.
What?
Cautious optimism?
No, you'll know what I mean when I say this.
Okay.
The two lost because when the Coyotes won those 2 games in a row over Montreal and New Jersey, it almost seemed like they were going to pull it ahead of Montreal in some way. No, right at this time the recording, they're only a point difference.
Mm.
And let me see what it is. 23 points and 24 points, respectively. The Coyotes have 24 points, 1 point ahead of Montreal. So those the 2 losses to the New York team, just like, okay, so no ground was gained there, and we're just like, all right, we'll stay put.
Sure.
And again, we're thinking long term here, and long term we want lottery.
Yeah. I agree. I will say something I was pointing out on Twitter is it is still a long season. The Coyotes have 42 more games left to play. So a win tonight, a loss tonight, it doesn't make the biggest difference in the grand scheme of things. I get that Montreal collapsing was unexpected, but I think everyone expected there to be teams that were also bad, also in the running for the lottery win.
Ottawa.
So Ottawa. I don't know if people thought Philadelphia would be what they were, but they are. The Kraken. No one really expected that except for people who like paid attention to the draft and were like, "What are they doing?"
Before the draft, yeah, we thought it's like, oh, the Kraken are going to be like they're because of the Pacific Division, they're probably going to finish second in the Pacific. No, no.
So like there are these teams that are like suddenly like chomping at the bit to finish first in the lottery, but we are in such a very specific moment, and so much more hockey is going to happen that that doesn't really matter each individual game at this point. So I always go in the mindset that the Coyotes need to give it their all. They need to hopefully show signs of improvement. This is where we're seeing like the benefits of Bears' system. This is where we're seeing like which players can possibly be with the team next year. I don't think anyone really expected Travis Boyd to be in the consideration for this team moving forward, but I think his play with Clayton Keller is kind of like, maybe earns him another year. So you get those good things from wins. You don't get those from losses. So I'm just happy to just let things go as they go. Also, I should point out the Flyers are on a 12-game losing streak. I just saw that, and that's very funny to me.
How many of that's credited to Martin Jones?
I don't know. They do have overtime points in 2 of their last 10, so gotta love NHL losing streaks. You're never really sure what counts as a losing streak or a winning streak.
Yep. Pretty much. Anyways, though, we still got more to get to on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to go ahead and take that preview into tonight's game, Arizona Coyotes and Pittsburgh Penguins. That game over at the in Pittsburgh. And you'll be able to watch that at 5 p.m. So we're going to talk about that preview in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you guys about BetOnline, because BetOnline would like to wish you a happy betting new year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. The new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. So back here on Locked On Coyotes, once again, Robin Leano and Carl Pavlik. We are previewing Arizona Coyotes and Pittsburgh Penguins. Once again, that game in Pittsburgh. This is going to be an interesting game, Carl. You mentioned a couple things about Pittsburgh and the kind of team that they are. It's not going to be an easy game.
No. I think everyone always expects Pittsburgh to be an offensive powerhouse because they have a lot of highly skilled players. Sidney Crosby, Malkin, the surprising resurgence of Jeff Carter, who somehow has 12 goals. I don't know how that's a thing, but it is. I don't know how I feel about that either because Jeff Carter, longtime king. I remember seeing him being acquired to win the cup, and then just kind of hung around, thought he was over, just having a resurgence in Pittsburgh. But yeah, also this is a team that's very solid defensively, and they have a great goalie in Tristan. Is it Jari?
Jari.
Yeah. It starts with a J, but he's from BC, so it's just like, oh, maybe it's pronounced like a J, as opposed to the soft J. But 2.09 goals against average, 928 save percentage. Maybe his second career or second season as a starter for the Penguins. Just a very impressive goaltender. I do always wonder how Pittsburgh keeps getting these really good goaltenders.
I know, they just keep getting lucky with that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, Matt Murray was a flash in the pan, but
he won a cup, so that's fine.
Yeah, but with the assistance of Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury was his fail-safe, and he was there in that case. So
yes.
You don't give all the benefit to because in the first full season under Matt Murray, look what happened.
Yeah, of course. Because yes, you are correct. Marc-Andre Fleury definitely deserves a part of that. But I think if you were able to get a flash in the pan that also wins you a cup, that is worth anything.
And I think technically won him 2 cups.
Yeah.
If we're going to be real here, so I will give him that credit. He did help them win 2 cups. Both of those goalies did. They were a great tandem.
But I mean, now they're just they got another one, and it's not even necessarily a tandem thing. Although we will be missing a chance to see former Coyote Louis Domingue, who is injured. If they start Jari, I don't know how much the Coyotes are necessarily going to be able to do against him.
I don't know either. It's going to be. It's going to be a tough one. I'm looking at. Trying to see some of the other stats on here and see what's going to be. Pennsburg, the SB Nation site, lists, of course, it's definitely going to be Jari starting, which is going to be no surprise.
Yeah.
Projected.
Yeah, I do. Like, every single year, the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm just like, what are you doing? It always seems to be like something kind of under the radar. Not necessarily, but they're a very interesting team, and I can see why they are like in the hunt for the top of the Metro. I do think it's very frustrating that the Coyotes went from facing the number 1 team to the number 2 team.
Now here's a question. Here's a question for you though. What goaltender do you start for Arizona?
Vejmelka. I think Karel Vejmelka has earned a spot as the starter for now. I think that is always something that's going to be reevaluated in the season because they're both untested goaltenders. He was pulled against the Rangers, so you want to give him that confidence boost by being like, hey, we're going to put you right back in there. Don't even worry about that last one. And I don't think he should. I think that collapse was more on the team in front of him.
Absolutely. A couple other things I want to address on this, and there are some former Penguins on the Coyotes.
Hmm. You don't always think about former opponents on the Coyotes team, unless we're playing Chicago and like half the team was made up of former Blackhawks.
But come on, we cannot forget that Phil Kessel was a
Of
Pittsburgh
course.
Penguin. It was part of the Pittsburgh Penguins teams that won the Stanley Cup.
Of course, yeah. Another big part of that cup run. Let's hope Kessel has a really good game against his former team. How was he against against Toronto? I don't remember him getting the goal for that one.
I don't remember much of that one.
Yeah, but I mean, golden opportunity for him to have a big night. And who knows? Maybe, maybe he proves that maybe add Kessel for another run. Who knows?
And there is one more player. It was a very, very, very short-lived. And yeah, so we have again. It was short. So it was short-lived for this player, but Alex Galchenyuk also played for the Pittsburgh Penguins at one point, and that was in part of the trade that brought Phil Kessel over to the Arizona Coyotes.
And now the Coyotes have both. I did check. P.O. Joseph is not going to be playing with the Penguins. Looks like he's with Scranton team. So unfortunately, we won't be able to see him. Definitely a very interesting prospect for the Coyotes defensively that I was kind of sad to see them move away from. I was happy at the time to get Kessel, but given the situation the team's in now, I probably would have taken Joseph.
Yeah, because and I think that went before that topic of before the trade happened. We're talking about I think I was talking about it on maybe it was on our old podcast about Pierre-Olivier Joseph and the kind of potential of a prospect he could have been, and where he was highly touted. He was.
He had a lot of offensive upside. The knock against him was he couldn't put on weight. Looking at what people generally associate with the Coyotes in that time period, I cannot imagine there was a lot of desire by either then GM Chayka or then coach Rick Tocchet to have another smaller, or not necessarily smaller, but scrawnier, less meaty player. The Coyotes definitely went a different way since then with a more physically tough, and I don't think P.O. Joseph necessarily fit that mold. But I mean, with an opportunity to get a player like Kessel and what became a year where the team also acquired Taylor Hall, I could see the understanding of a team going all in.
Yeah, and it makes sense, especially because Phil Kessel was Phil Kessel, right?
Yeah.
They brought him in for a reason. And that was, I think, the 2019. So it was the COVID, the pre-COVID year, right before COVID happened. And that year, I think I was talking about it on my radio show when I was a student at the University of Arizona. And I was like, look, it makes sense for the Arizona Coyotes to do that because they were a bubble team the previous year. They kind of, looked like they were almost ready to make it. And, I think Phil Kessel will help them make the push and make a playoff push. And obviously they did a lot more that year to make that push, including the acquisition of Taylor Hall. And they did end up making the playoffs off of a,
play-in series and a COVID bubble.
Yeah, I was about to use a different term, just a basic term for it, but yes.
It was not a typical entry. The Coyotes definitely did not warrant that kind of optimism in retrospect.
Yeah, and I think that's why. That's why we're in the rebuild now. It's because a lot of the quote bubble part of the Coyotes was all smoke and mirrors. It's oh, they look like they could, but can they piece? But is it a piece together kind of thing? No, it's not.
Yeah, it was definitely if players continue to develop in certain ways, this will be a compliment. And those players either didn't develop in those ways or they didn't do it on the time scale required. Because like Clayton Keller, I think was expected to be a much more important player for the team, and I think he has become that player now. I think he is the significant piece of the Coyotes offense. I think he's playing well despite being on a bad team, but it didn't work on the time frame of having Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel. And that's a tough miscalculation to make. I do always wonder, like, if the team had stuck around as is for another season, if we hadn't have had like a major sell off this past off season, what would the team be doing now? And I do kind of think they'd be in a playoff bubble search. I think like they could have maybe made something happen if they still had players like Dvorak and Kemper and Hill. But that's just ownership decide differently and management decide differently, and it's not my money on the line, so I'm gonna let them make that decision.
Exactly. Anyways, though, we still got more to get to on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to get some predictions, including betting lines, coming up in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. And we're back here on Locked On Coyotes as we discuss the Arizona Coyotes, Pittsburgh Penguins, tonight at 5 p.m. local, 5 p.m. Arizona time, 7 p.m. over there in Pittsburgh. Quite the game we got going on, and it is time, Carl, for my favorite segment of every pregame show, and that is the Bet Online Picks of the Game.
What do we got today?
So here are our lines. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, 1.5 favorites at -176. Money line for the Arizona Coyotes is +375, -445 at the Pittsburgh Penguins. Total points is 6 even.
6 even. That's so we have seen the Penguins score 6 goals on their own twice this month. They did against the Flyers. They did against the Ottawa Senators. They scored 8 against the Sharks. We have also seen them score 5 against the Vegas Golden Knights and 5 against the Columbus Blue Jackets, 2, let's say, mid-range teams. And we've seen a couple of like high offense Coyotes games. I honestly think that this one you should bet the over.
I'm trying to think about that one though, because like, and again, how much of that for, what? Is it Matt Murray, the goaltender in Ottawa, or is it someone else now?
Yes, it is Matt Murray in Ottawa.
So, because we're talking, so the teams you mentioned, Philadelphia, Martin Jones, Ottawa, Matt Murray, and I think probably that game against San Jose was Adin Hill, which again, nothing against the dude, but young.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Karel Vejmelka is also young, and he's still. Remember we talked about coming from a low level Czech league, but he has proven himself to be able to do some really pretty awesome stuff in games in which the Coyotes shouldn't be in it, really, theoretically, but he does something absolutely phenomenal. And again, this is all assuming Karel Vejmelka is the goaltender in tonight.
Real quick, one quick correction before you make your point. Looks like Anton Forsberg and Philip Gustafsson were the goaltenders for the Ottawa Senators. They split because, of course, they did. They gave up 6 goals. But yeah, it was not Matt Murray. I do not want to sully his name by associating him with a 6-4 loss.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good thing to put out there.
Yeah, but please. So you think the Coyotes can maybe do a little bit better effort against some of the other teams in the bottom?
Yes, because of better goaltending. And I think for that reason it will go under, but not by much. It will be a five goal total. like 4-1 game.
So I was gonna say 5 goal total. We're not on the same page for this one, but we are. I'm just a little bit higher. I was gonna go 5-3, Pittsburgh. So I think this is gonna be another situation where we see a couple of early goals from the Coyotes, but Pittsburgh just take over control of the game, which is actually what they did against the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday. They gave up 2 goals, and then they came back and won in the shootout. So I don't trust the Coyotes to not be kind of, start strong and then just collapse in the second period, like we talked about. I feel like that's going to be the Coyotes, but I feel like they have enough history of strong enough starts that the Penguins are going to need to have a big comeback, and I think they're going to be able to get it.
It'll be interesting to see how this one goes. And again, I'm putting my faith in the goaltending, at least a little bit, not as much as as the games have been in past. Where you have a 47 save night, but.
Well, let me ask you a question, because 4-1's a very interesting score. Empty net goals or no?
Yes. There's going to be 1 empty net goal.
Okay. So, let's say it's Karel Vejmelka, which, again, I think we both agree is the logical start, but that may change. He gives up 3 goals, and then an empty netter, so we're not going to blame him. I'd say that's a good look for Vejmelka. If he can give up 3 goals against a team that's on a 5-game win streak, a Pittsburgh Penguins team, no less, then I would say that would be a good game for him.
This also seems like one of those games where we talk about how, all the takeaways, all the bad takeaways for the Arizona Coyotes in which they win. And New Jersey, obviously these are 2 completely different teams because New Jersey is nowhere near as good as Pittsburgh is. But we're just no, Coyotes don't got this, and but they did, and in a surprising way too, because they won that game 4-1.
And I mean, let's give credit to the Coyotes. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs this season, another one of the top teams in the East. If they had not given up that shorthanded goal against the Rangers and started the second period collapse, they probably could have maybe held on a little bit better. So yeah, the Coyotes can definitely do some stuff. They just can't find a way to do it consistently.
And that is the biggest nail in their own coffin every freaking time. Can't be consistent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Anyways, though, so I say it's a 4-1 game. You say it's a 5-3 game. So we're on quite different pages here.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we do tend to be kind of close. I think we're a little bit closer on the Penguins' offense. I just think the Coyotes are going to have a little bit better of an answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I just, again, and based off what we were saying earlier, Christian Jarry is also really good. So,
absolutely. That is the problem. The Coyotes are going up against what is probably going to be a hot goaltender. So that's going to be fun.
Absolutely. So those are our predictions. Take it as you will. Choose to bet if you decide to. If you are a person who likes to gamble, and gamble responsibly if you decide to do so. Make wise picks. You don't have to listen to us, but you can if you want to. It's just that's all your decision. But anyways, that is it for us on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. Hope you guys like what you heard. If you did, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you get to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook and facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Instagram at LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at @LO_Coyotes. All those places you can interact with us there. Also, personally, I am at Robin_Leonio, Carl Pavlik at Carl Pavlik FFH. Ask us the question you might have, we can answer right back, or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy, and don't forget to howl on.